Well, hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. We're in season 5, and I am very excited for this next guest. One, not only because we're on video now. For those, some of you still like to listen where you're in your car or whatever you're doing, working out, pumping the guns a little bit. But if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, we appreciate people tuning into video. This is what I look like. This is what my guest looks like. His name's Jason Roundy, and I met him in the way back, I'd say 20-ish, 16-ish,
Right
and
around there.
yeah, and he is. He's a gentleman that's been in the athletic development journey forever, which is how he and I met it, from the harbor to the West Coast. That's Central Washington University for you guys scoring at home. And then, long story short, he actually got me back involved with my level university. And then he ended up leaving. He went down south to another college, and then we reconnected. And then I reconnected him where I left when I worked for almost 20 years with our friends at Kforce. But that's not why we're having Jason on. We're having Jason on, talk about Jason the dad and how he's working hard to become the ultimate quarterback or leader of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Roundy, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Really appreciate the time. And of course, it's always just great to see you. Even though we've moved on from Washington on my end, you and I keep in touch
100%.
Every quarter, every other quarter. I mean, we're still in regular contact. So really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You bet, dude. Well, I feel like I had to work through like 14 agents and then give you an NIL deal to finally get you to come on the podcast, which
the NIL. Yep. I'm not going to touch that, but yes, just about. I'm glad our both of our sides worked it out.
Would it be cool if I could say this episode's sponsored by Rawls Barbershop?
Yeah, I know, right? They're giving us good haircuts.
Right? Exactly. Well, joking aside, my man, we always start out each episode with gratitude. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
Yeah, no, I listened to a few of your podcast episodes, so I knew this was coming. So, biggest thing for me is just the opportunity to be the dad. I think there's a lot of things that we can take for granted in our lives, and that's one that we can have kids for a lot of us, or be that father figure to people. But I'd say that's the biggest thing with my kids is the opportunity to be their dad. I'm chatting with them daily about things they're going through, about challenges they're having, or just a new thought my son had, and he wants to try out this new joke on his old man. Right, just that opportunity to be around them, listen to them, learn from them, but also to be that kind of guiding force in their life that is often missed for a lot of people growing up.
Well, the reason why I love that answer, by the way, but I love asking that question because it keeps us present. And it's so easy to your point, like to get busy with the rat race of life and have all the reasons. But if we don't slow down to really understand what we're thankful for, I think it kind of, if we're having a bad day, that just having a little gratitude can get us out of that funk. Or just because I'm of the naive mindset, you can always be grateful for something. Like when I wake up, I do a little journal work, and I always say, God, thanks for waking me up today.
Thanks for yet one more day on the earth, because we don't know when our next one's going to be, right? Like, and not to divert, but I think you and I have talked about this. My mom just all of a sudden, heart attack, 58 years old, gone. Never talked to her again, right? So you never know when that's coming. But to be that parent there with your kids, knowing that, hey, that next day, are you going to be there, loading up what you've got now and making sure they're on a good path for when they launch. That's it's the hard part, but at the same time, that's the really rewarding, and then the part that I'm grateful for, like you're saying.
Love it. Well, I'm sorry about your mom, man. It's I know what it's like to lose a parent. It sucks. My pops, Mikey Jaycox, I'm looking at him right now on my desk. Ironically, from a photo at Southern Oregon, where Ryder's going to school, which is maybe serendipitous. But my gratitude today, Jason, is I always give love to both kids, but I'm going to give this episode mainly to Ryder. I'm grateful for him that he still wants to talk to dad when he's at college. And he hasn't really started school yet, but he's down there with golf team and going through that journey. And whether it's Snapchat, which I am on Snapchat now, and I thought I'd never be on Snapchat, but I've had other dads say, dude, if you want to get in touch with your kids at this age, get on Snapchat. So I'm like, all right. I finally stopped fighting it. I'm like, it's actually kind of fun. So I'm doing that with him, and he sends me messages, but we probably talk every day, and it's not like, Dad, leave me alone. He's like, he's excited to talk to me. He's excited to talk to what's going on. He'll send a picture of this. He'll and every call is, "Hey, Dad, I love you, man." And I'm grateful for the fact that we still say "I love you" at the end of every phone call, and if we talk a couple times a day. And even though he's 7.5, 8 hours away, as hard as that was on mom and dad that first week, it still feels like he's here because we talk so often, and it's normal. It's not. So I'm grateful for that level, because I know that was not like me when I was in college. I didn't talk to my parents every day. And so I'm grateful that I have that right now with him.
That's awesome.
So, well, bring us inside. We're going to get into more about the story of you and work and relationship building, but I want to slow down. I want to get inside the Roundy huddle. This is your chance to play quarterback. You got a helmet on. You're taking a snap, and tell me who's on the squad.
Yeah.
Who's on the Roundy team?
Well, we got our coach, right? That's Shannon.
I think she's the general manager.
Yeah, well, general manager, coach, owner. I mean, she does it all. So yeah, can't say enough about her. She I mean, I couldn't do what I do, right, without her support. Being there as a physical presence, right? But then on top of that, me, I'm not an overly emotional guy. I'm just not. Can have fun when we need to, but don't wear my heart on a sleeve. And she really keeps me grounded in that, and making sure there's still that emotional side. Not saying she's overly emotional, but she definitely helps me keep that ship in the right. And then, my let's call him a receiver and our halfback, right, Draven and Ayla. I can't imagine life without them, right? Draven's starting a senior year. Really feeling that 17, almost 18-year-old challenges. Trying to navigate that, especially that social world. He's got a great head on his shoulders, great moral compass. He really tries to do what he feels is right, which is awesome. Now Ayla, she's got a great moral compass as well, but she's also the type to test the boundaries. So a lot more socially in tune. She's very, very much there. That way as well. And of course, both of them doing really well in school, but all of them are awash in interests as well. And so we never know what they're going to come with. I guess
takes the
outside of
credit?
that, what's that?
Who takes the credit for her pushing boundaries? Are we giving that to you or Shannon?
We'll give that to Shannon because it was more her personality growing up.
Okay.
Now, if you were to ask her, it would be Dad. She's definitely Daddy's girl.
Love it. And tell me, how did you and Shannon meet?
So we met at Utah State, where we both graduated with our bachelors. I was visiting a friend there. I was actually living 2 hours away and visiting a friend there. He's deaf. I'm fluent in sign language. And so I was visiting him. He said, "Hey, you want to go meet my girlfriend?" I'm like, "Well, only if she's got a cute roommate or two." And he says, "Well, there's one, but she's kind of weird." And so I showed up. It was just him and her, on their couch cuddling and making me sick. And then Shannon walked in. She was the weird one. So she came in from a dance and then running through the sprinklers. So she's was much more that free spirit, that outdoorsy type. And from there, it was back before, really many people had cell phones and anything like that. But we were doing a lot of emailing, and then went on the first dates. Went pretty quick from there. We're married 6 months later. Pretty quick.
Wow.
So yeah, just kind of new.
I learned something today. I never knew you were fluent in sign language.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
my brother. I know vulnerability is a big thing for you. You and I have talked about that a lot. I don't talk about this a lot, but my brother had brain cancer when he was 4. And so from that, all the surgeries, the radiation, the chemo, he lost most of his hearing and then developed double vision. So they started teaching him sign language. Doctors kind of followed an antiquated way of approaching someone who's deaf or hard of hearing, said, "Hey, let's teach him to lip read as opposed to sign language." I started picking it up and kind of had a knack for it. And so kind of the developed the skill from there. Interpreted for through school. It was a great college gig, and then went on to do what I was probably more meant to do. Still fluent, still can communicate, still understand it, but
Have
been
you
a while.
have you ever found yourself the ability to use that skill in like a professional world yet?
Yes, we here at Kforce actually interviewed someone that and had someone that worked for us who was deaf, and so I was
Wow.
able to interview her, help her along through that journey, and work on that. And so that professionally, yes. Whenever I go somewhere and people learn about it, they say, "Hey, let's get you interpreting," and that's not me anymore. So
Well, I know you and I talk about we've talked about value based selling over the years, and
hmm
one of my mentors said there's three types of differentiation: unique, comparative, and holistic. Most companies aren't unique because many people do what they do. It's just, but if you can be comparatively different, but I'm going to give you a shout out to being unique because I don't think I know too many staffing sales studs who also are fluent in sign language. So you're getting a star right there. That's
you
pretty
get
impressive.
that unique for that narrow narrow niche. But yeah, no, thanks for pegging me into that category.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, one question I like asking dads that usually allows me to learn more about my guests, and I know you and I have talked, we're buddies, we talked together, but I don't know if I've ever asked this question. So take me back to life as Jason the kid and talk about what was life like growing up for you, and then talk about some of those lessons, stories that have impacted you as a dad today.
Yeah, and again, it can roll back a little bit into that brother with brain cancer stuff, right? Very different upbringing than, and that was kind of college years, high school years, um, and so there's the more kid side, then there's the really more adult side, even into high school. Um, as a kid, my dad worked swing shift. He was a very blue collar worker, so worked in a coal fired power plant. So knew how hard he worked. He came home dirty. Came home with with not loving his job, but realizing it put food on the table and a roof over the head, and that was the hard work. And then that food on the table, roof over the head was really emphasized growing up. Can't say enough about him, his how he just worked through things like that. Because I know he didn't always love his job. I was driven by sports, so and it was a love that my dad had. So we really bonded over baseball. Didn't really ever feel he was living vicariously through me, like I know some do. But he definitely pushed me, helped me baseball wise, football wise. When baseball didn't work out for me one year in high school, I'm like, I'm joining the track team. I'm throwing javelin, and then I got to throw javelin in college for a year. So there was always that drive and that motivator, but it was really brought up by that hard work, and then seeing how hard he worked and working that swing shift, working nights, weekends, flex time, whatever he could to provide. And then mom was home, so she really gave us that good I said moral compass earlier, that good moral compass for us, that good um, that base to our lives, to where we're probably pretty well adjusted that way. The other thing that she emphasized a lot more was the academics. She was a voracious reader, but she would pick up a book and have it read in a couple hours. She'd read so fast. Always been super jealous of her and then my youngest sister that they could do that. When I read, I retain most things I read. I just can't read that fast. So we got the academics on her side. She always emphasized that for us because it's not something she got out past high school. So then brain cancer hit my brother when he was 4. My
And
parents kind of
how?
moved to what's
Sorry,
that?
how old were you when he got diagnosed brain cancer?
14, 15, somewhere in
Okay,
there.
and how old was your sister?
So I've got two younger sisters. One's a year and a half younger than me, and then the other one's, I want to say, 4 years younger than me. So kind of in that 14 to 10 years range. Um, and he was a tough kid, man. I remember he fell off a piece of playground equipment when we were just out messing around at the school across the street, and then he just started favoring his elbow. Wasn't him. Went and had him look at the doctor look at it, and had a broken elbow. So a tough kid. Didn't really complain about anything. Started complaining of headaches, and our doctor knew him well enough to say, "Hey, something's wrong. Let's send him to primary children's," which is, at that time 2.5 hours away. So, I mean, my parents kind of moved away for a good couple of years, probably, and we all kind of stayed with people in the neighborhood, different families, and kind of had a different upbringing there. But I tell Shannon all the time, mom moved away and she didn't really move back. That was pretty hard for her. It was hard for all of us. We all did our coping in different ways. But
Totally.
on top of that, though, I mean, the leading from the kid to now, there are opportunities that I try to afford my kids because of that. That that I probably wouldn't have if we wouldn't have gone through that. I know it's made me stronger, but also grew up a lot quicker because of
Yeah.
it. So
What so is dad still with us?
yeah, Dad's still here. Part of the reason why I moved back to Utah. Big and Mom too at the time. But I'm glad I'm close to him. He's about 2 hours away, hour and a half away. I try and go see him once a month to go and knock out a project for him, say hi, see him in person.
Love it. And so when your brother went through this, and is your brother still with us?
No, he passed away at 10. So he had he's in all sorts of medical journals for the first time. Like the first surgery, they infected him with meningitis on accident, and it had only ever been found
Jeez.
in soil. So that's the first time it had been in a human. He had the cancer technically not recur. Originally, it was a glioblastoma. I think it was a glioblastoma, then medulloblastoma, or vice versa, but a different type occurred in the same space. So he was, when it recurred or hit him again, he's gone about 8 months later. It was pretty
Mm.
quick. So
Cancer is something I don't hate many things, Jason, but I freaking hate it.
that's one that I really hate. Same here.
I hate it because I've had a lot of unfortunately friends impacted. I've had buddies lose wives before the age of 40, which is always one of my biggest like worries, as a husband. And Carrie had, I remember telling you, Carrie had some health challenges, and her just in the last 6 months kind of got better.
That's
We
good.
actually did an episode about it that I wasn't sure I was going to go, but I'm glad I did it. But it's like the biggest fear, which goes back to the question I asked in the very beginning about just being present and enjoying every moment we got. Um, Now, did mom and dad? So when your brother passed, were they back home with you, or were they still? Maybe walk through a little bit about it. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So he passed when I was in college. Just started college. So I was there for another year before I moved out. And so they were around for that. He died at home, which was nice as opposed to him hooked up to tubes and machines, all that stuff. I guess nice because of that. It wasn't nice that he passed away at home, right? But so then from then, I moved out and started moving on from there. But that was still an interesting time with
Sure.
that. Still trying to figure things out after going through something that heavy so early, but that kind of prolonged push through your earlier years in your life.
I can't even imagine what your parents went through. One, and then obviously you have three other kids, so it's like trying to balance that. And
Yep.
um, I
Uh,
mean,
and with that, I mean, my dad had told me this too, that because we don't blame them for going away for a period of time, right? I mean, it's what they had to do to get their son well. The amazing thing is that there were other parents around that could and were willing to take us in. I ran into one of the family members that I lived with for a period of time, and told her how amazing her parents were. That they were just so nice to first of all, put up with me for an extended period of time, but then also to open their house and make sure that I was looked after a little bit on that end, and can't say enough positive about them, especially through that time, because they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But my parents were doing what they could to get their son better. It's hard
Mm.
to balance that, and knowing that you have the other three, they did what they could, and especially where we didn't grow up with a whole lot, couldn't
Yeah.
couldn't do couldn't outsource it. You know what I mean? So
Wow. Man, that's heavy stuff, bro.
yeah, and here I am dumping on your podcast about
No,
something heavy.
maybe there's a dad listening that's gone through this.
Yeah.
Probably there is. I mean, the number of times, Jason, I've had, like, even in my own hometown, a mom came up to me last year basketball season and said, "Thank you so much." I'm like, "I'm sorry. Who are you?" She's like, and then she reintroduced herself. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry." And she says, "Yeah, you just did an episode with someone who had seizures, and
Oh
my husband's having seizures, and it totally helped us realize that we're not alone."
yeah,
And it, like, just made further people who can't see this. There's a believe sign behind me, which reminds me that I believe what I do matters, which I got that question from my friend John Kaplan. Shout out to Force Management. I just love that question. I love that word because it's a word that many people don't spend time thinking about, but I think it's one of the most powerful words that just gets us strong. So I appreciate your sharing it, because I know I believe what I do matters. And if we can impact another dad, that's the goal of these episodes, is to just, you know,
totally. And through that, I have a pretty clear memory of when he was in the hospital too, when he was first diagnosed, having all the surgeries. But there was a kid that he shared a room with for a little while, and my family talks about this still kind of in comparison. But my brother was probably in a worse way health wise, but mom and dad were there. This kid was dropped off. They saw the family at the beginning, and then by the time my brother moved out of that room 3 months later, they didn't see the family again. He was kind of alone. So my brother and him really struck up this good friendship. But what we'd talked about over the years is, hey, you kind of have it bad, but at the same time, it's not that bad, right? He's in better health, but wouldn't you rather have your family around? So, and maybe the family showed up, right? But in our experience, that family just wasn't around, where
mm,
we had that luxury, even though that wasn't a luxury, because mom and dad for me and my sisters weren't around as much of that time. He still had that luxury. They had that luxury of being there. So it was that you never know who else is going through it. But also, I wouldn't trade with that kid. I wouldn't trade with you. I wouldn't trade with anyone else, just because it's what I've been through. It's made me who I am. And would I trade for Elon Musk's money? I mean, that's a different set of problems, right? But I wouldn't want someone else's problems either.
tell me the biggest, as you reflect on sharing the story, which again I didn't know you were going to share, which I love. And everybody, we start with a
Neither did
blank
I.
piece of paper
Yep.
before today's episode. Um, tell me, what is the, as you think about that journey as a dad, how has it shaped you now that you're raising your kids with you and Shannon?
Yeah. Well, as I'm thinking on it, one negative way, but it's not really negative when you really peel it back, but a lot of positive ways, right? The negative way, when my son was 4, he had a headache. First thing I'm thinking is brain cancer. Oh
Oh
crap, here it
man.
comes again, right? So obviously gun shy, obviously have that that holdover from growing up, and wondering when's the other shoe going to drop. And honestly, that's still in the back of my mind, just because of you almost go into that fight or flight or that survival
Totally.
mode growing up,
Yep.
because it's like that's the way your life is. But outside of that, that's also driven me to try and provide more opportunities. Like um, growing up, I'd always go and have that. What do they call it in the schools where the book fair? They have the thing where you can check off book fair. I read a lot. I loved reading. I love writing, and so I'd be like, "Hey, mom, dad, can I get this book?" And it was like, we can't afford that. So I was running down to the library. I'd still get the book, right? But every time my kids came up to me and said, "Hey, can I do the book fair?" Like, yeah, absolutely. What book do you want, right? Even though that like may not have been something super impactful to them, it was
Yeah.
important to me that I was making it a little bit better for them, even if it wasn't this groundbreaking or earth-shattering impact for them. But also the really paying attention and being there, because again, my parents really paid attention to that situation and what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
They really tried to be there for him. So with that, I'm trying to then again learn from my parents and say, okay, what do I need to do next? What else can I provide for them, do for them? How else can I work to their betterment? Because that's again what I viewed my parents doing during that difficult time for the brother. So, yeah.
Have you ever told your kids that story?
Which one?
The one about that I couldn't afford a book at a book fair?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Love it.
Yeah, I've told them that. I've told them some other times, like, I didn't get this opportunity growing up. I had to go do it myself. Whatever it is. And so, and my son's had a job for the last 2 years, and he's a hard worker. He saves his money. He's definitely learned some things growing up. He's probably more advanced at 17 with money than a lot of kids.
Love it. Got to have him talk to our boy Jed. Get
Yeah,
him into
right.
some investing stuff. Shout
Get
out to
him into
Jed
that.
Collins.
Yeah, love Jed
Um,
Collins.
so your mom was a voracious reader. I know you're a reader. I'm sure you got that from her. I'm assuming.
Uh huh.
Where did the writing passion come from?
Yeah, was in high school. Had he was a coach, but he taught English, and he gave us an assignment to write on our hero, and I knew everyone was going to either write about a sports figure or their parents, right? So I was trying to think of something different. And there's this guy that made a big impact on me growing up. His name is Dave Walton. He was a religious leader growing up, and just it wasn't so much about what he was teaching. It wasn't so much about the faith-based aspect. It was more about just how he carried himself and how he treated people and how he made you feel. And just all my interactions with him, I wrote it about him. And I didn't know that this teacher was friends with him, and he shared it with him.
Hmm.
And so, the first thought was like, oh, okay, maybe I've got a little talent for this. At the very least, I enjoyed it. And then I took a state writing exam, and I think this one was they were saying, hey, what's your favorite character? And I watched the movie Mad Max just before that, so I'm like, I'm going to write this about Mad Max and throw these guys for a loop. And I scored really high on it, and it was a more of like a character study and deep dive into that character. And when I got back the score on that, I scratched my head again, going, man, maybe I do have a talent for this. So since then, I've written a lot of different things, mostly for myself, sharing it with family and friends. Had a couple things published, some a couple short stories, but write more for like the enjoyment of the story, as opposed to other types of things. So it's something to keep me busy and flex that creative hat, creative muscle, put on that creative hat. I mix the metaphors there, but
Love it.
yep.
So okay, so voracious reader, writing passion. Dad taught power of hard work. What would be another kind of core value of the Roundy household growing up, that, or maybe even through living with other family members, or
Yeah,
families that you learned that, that was important to you, that really impacted you, now that you'll apply and teach your kids?
yeah, and I've already been applying it. In fact, you may have seen. I can't remember if you were there, but a few other donors. I know I had my son talk with on the sidelines at a Central Washington football game. I was trying to teach them how to have conversations, right? Trying to teach my kids what relationships mean, and so I really feel like my other talent is that creating relationships. You and I have talked about that a lot. Growing up, it was, living in other households, being around your family, kind of being in flux and maybe feel a little unsettled. There was always that trying to get a sense of belonging, if you will.
Yeah,
But
sure.
on top of that, it was also you saw a lot of people come to you with that sympathy. Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that, and it's not because they were trying to be fake. It's just, what do you say to someone that their brother's going through cancer, their mom dies, their dad dies, like yours has? Um, we don't know what to say. It's a super awkward conversation. I want to overshare and show that I know what they're going through because my step uncle died, and so I know what you're going through, right? Maybe that doesn't always translate. So trying to figure out how I felt about some of those things and about how people interacted with me. I tried to make it more about them as opposed to how I fit with them. And I still carry that through now. I've been of the firm opinion that you focus on the relationship and donations at the time, the fundraising, business, whatever will come. If you focus there, I think that's the true building block. But it's not enough to say that you're there for the relationship. It's more, how are you truly there with that person? Are you truly interested in them? And is it interested in them without the thought of reciprocation on that? And something that stands out with that, Tuna, Dave Haverlow,
Yeah.
former major league pitcher, one of my closest friends, love the guy.
Play-by-play
He,
announcer.
yep, play-by-play announcer, central legend, right? Um, he first time I interacted with him, I came to him. It's like, hey, Tuna, what can we do for you? Yeah, fundraisers, salespeople, they're always asking, right? I feel it should be a two-way street. It's like, if I'm going to ask for something, I better be able to offer something. So I asked him, what can we do for you? And he had no response. Tuna is not the type of guy to be lost for words. But that was one of those times where he didn't have a response, but he's shared with me several times that that's what stood out to him. He's like, you were different than everyone else, that you wanted a relationship with me. So with my kids, I'm always trying to emphasize that to them, is it's yeah, that's great that you want this relationship with this individual, whether it be the girlfriend, this boy that you like, your friend that you're having a hard time with, but are they, you asking them to come to you, or are you asking them to meet you halfway? Don't go, sometimes you need to go all the way, but try and find that middle ground where the two of you actually have a true back and forth, that true reciprocal relationship where you're really there for them and they're really there for you. If that's where you're at, then that's a relationship.
Have you seen, like, as you tell that story, and I know that's who you are because I've lived it, and we'll get to that story in a second. But have
Mm-hmm.
you seen your kids embrace the learnings from mom or dad, and then like apply it in school, and then like super like, and you go and Shannon are like, oh my god, it worked.
100%. In fact, we've had a couple times recently where our kids were not quite being who they typically are, right? They're the teenager times, right? Where they're moody, they're a little flippant in their responses to you. There's other colorful names we could throw in there, right? But they but calling it out to them, Draven and Ayla are phenomenal at, of course, they're still kind of in their head a little bit, trying to feel through their hormones, or their growing up, or them trying to push their boundaries like teenagers do, and like they should. But them us giving them some coaching and some call back to earth. Um, with my son, when he's a little bit more, when he tries to talk back, which is very rare, he tries to talk back. I'll just say, try again, and he'll be, oh, sorry, Dad. Just like some of those like small adjustments with him, he's kind of learned that he's he can be aware of what he's doing. My daughter, on the other hand, it's reminding, and then her coming back saying, boy, I've really been thinking about it, and I have been whatever. I've been flippant. I've talked back too much,
Yep.
And then I especially love seeing Shannon's face going, yeah, she gets it. She's not going to just be this moody teenager that's going to stomp around the house. So yeah, we've seen it on that end, that self awareness, And then my daughter, there was this table at school that you couldn't have peanuts or any nuts because there was allergies. She came to us saying, "Hey, I don't want any peanut butter," and that was like her go-to sandwich. Why don't you want the peanuts? Well, I want to sit at the no nut table. Well, why do you want that? Well, there's this boy there, and he sits there all by himself every day. I want to invite
Mm.
my friends, and I want to go sit by him. So she convinced two or three other kids to go and sit by him, and then he kept being a friend with her just because she reached out. She met him. She met him on where he could be. So seeing that real trying to work toward that relationship and that self awareness, it's been very satisfying to me. But I see more of the satisfaction in them.
Oh, that's awesome. Like that's the story gave me goosebumps. I love those. That's those are, because I think sometimes, and I've had a lot of episodes around youth sports, sports parenting. I mean, I've lived it. I've seen the worst. I've seen the best.
Yeah.
Um, I hopefully I've not been too psychotic at times. I tried to, like, as a former athlete, like not live vicariously through my kids, and I was reminding them like I have no eligibility left. Um, and I'm glad my kids picked sports I was not good at. Like I
Hmm.
was a decent golfer, I was a decent basketball player, and my kids both have excelled both those sports, which has been fun to see. But I tell you what, I'm by regardless of the 3 pointers you made or the steal you got or the shot, golf, whatever. What I think of like proud moments, it's stories like you just shared. And I remember like a story at last year. So when Ryder was a senior, he already made the golf team as captain, and so the coach had him do like a walking score for tryouts. And one of the kids was a freshman. He ended up making it, but he struggled. And then the second day, Ryder was with him in this group, and the dad was a local dad in our community. And I get a phone call like one night, and I don't know this until the dad called literally like at 9:45. I'm like, what is this dude calling me so late for? I'm like,
Wow.
and I missed it. And I was like, shoot. And I was like, well, I'll just go hang out with Ryder real quick. And it's like, I heard a voicemail bing. So I went back, listened to the voicemail. I'm like, I hope nothing's wrong, because he left a message. He said, hey, give me a call back. I just wanted to give you something to have with your son today. I was like, oh God, what happened? So I called him back, and I'm thinking, obviously my mind goes to the worst.
Right.
He's like, hey dude, I just want to let you know, like, I hope one day I get a phone call like this. I'm like, please tell me, is everything okay? What did I do? He's like, he did nothing. But my son struggled big time today, and your son was in the group, and he didn't have to say one word to him because he's a senior. He could have treated him like absolute dog shit. He literally shot by shot picked him up, and he, after a second hole, he like then turned it around. In the last like six, 7 holes, he played out of his mind, ended up making the golf team. And my son said if he didn't pick him up, he wouldn't have been there. And I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate that.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
So I went in, and Ryder was already in bed. I said, hey, dude, wake up. He's like, what? I said, I just got a phone call from this person. He's like, what did you do? He's like, what? Dad, anything? I'm like, I'm just messing with you, but I'm so proud of you. He's like, what? Why did you do that? I'm like, because I like to have fun. And we had this like amazing hug, amazing talk, amazing bro hug moment. I said, but when you get to be like in your 20s and 30s and 40s, I hope you remember this moment, because all these moments as people, like, you shape us.
Hmm.
Like you're Dave Walden, that guy shaped you at times, to, guys like Glenn Dacus, Marty Osborne, Bo Baldwin, Coach Pika, all these people, like, they shaped us. Ryan Fournier, they shape us. And then it's up to us, I think, as dads, to then share these stories, because stories sell, and in sales, slides
Hmm.
don't, stories sell. So how do you have stories? And so, like, as we're helping our kids evolve, like, if we have stories as dads and think, well, I either can share it or don't say anything at all. And I think the more we can overshare, which is one of the reasons I love this journey as a podcaster, is we don't have a script. And it requires me to be a good listener and then ask questions. And then it requires my guests to be open to say that, hey, we're doing this for a reason, to help other people.
Totally.
So okay. So as you think about all the stuff we've talked about, and you think about, like, if you had to, like, well, if you had to summarize maybe like 2 or 3 things that, like, are really important for you and Shannon as you're raising kids, that maybe through her journey, your journey, that you guys have learned, that are like kind of the must-haves in the Roundy house, like our kids, like, these are the 2 or 3 things, guys, that we got to be really, really good at. Tell me what comes to mind.
Yeah. Being aware of where your kids are at, what they're needing, and then I'd say maybe not just providing that, because sometimes what they feel like they need is not what they need, and following up with giving them the guidance on that. One thing that we haven't talked about that Shannon and I agree on is we're not our kids' friends. We're definitely their parents. We want great relationships and a friend relationship with them, but we're not their friends. They've got friends. They need a dad. They need a mom. They need their parent or parents. So, and there are some things my son comes to me for, some things he goes to mom for. We have different skill sets and different areas that they feel comfortable. So being open to that, knowing that you're not the guy sometimes. You and I may have talked about that in the sales cycle. Sometimes you're not the guy to make the pitch. Sometimes you're not the guy that's going to create that relationship, and being okay with that. I love that I have that partner that I can lean on. And then again, that providing that opportunity to them. There were some that I feel I just didn't get growing up, and it was not anyone's fault. Just kind of where I was in life, where my parents were in life. I'm trying to provide more opportunities than I had, even if that's not monetary. It's just pushing them in the direction. I was a sports guy, was not an instrument guy. My son's an instrument guy, so providing whatever opportunities and push they need to get to where they're interested in.
Love it. Okay, so I want to tell, I want to go into the story of how we met everybody, because I think it's
Yeah.
important to kind of, I think it'll back everything Jason said. This will make sense in a second. So I was, Uncle Rico moment, quarterbacks under Washington back in the '90s, and I could probably throw the ball over that mountain if you wanted me to. Um, um,
I love it.
Uncle Rico moment right there. So, and I love Central. I still love Central, but when I got done, I would get these random people that would call me and, hi, is this Mr. Jake? Couldn't say my name, but yet they wanted money. And I'm like, just no, hey, just invest in me a little bit. Just show me you did a little research, kind of like how you talked to Tuna. Shout out to Haverlow. And it wasn't like we are these crazy egomaniacs, but it's like, just like you build a relationship, you have to invest in the bank before you take money out of the bank.
Hmm.
And I remember when finally you're like, dude, can I just I'm like, hey, I've not had the best experience with Central for the last few years. A lot of my coaches went to Eastern, ended up following Eastern when I did Central, and everybody. And then Jason finally says, hey, can I just come to your house and hear the story? I'm like, you sure? And I literally, you remember that, but I kind of like gave you the freaking, like, I was not a happy guy. And I'm like, I know
Yep.
it's not your fault, but I want to tell you a story. And then you probably flash forward 2 more years, had lunch here, had lunch there. And then finally I realized this dude is legit, and he's not, he wanted to get me right before and it was my idea. It was not your idea. I'm one finally said, hey man, I'm ready to go. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're time to do something. And, we did a scholarship here, scholarship there. Now I'm Chris James is a version of you. Shout out to you, Chris. And I feel like I always remind them, like, without Jason Roundy, you guys, I'm not here. And we now, like, philanthropically doing what we've done at Central is a huge passion of ours. What's impacting kids' lives, and these are things that we even talk to our kids about. We're not to be like, oh, we get to do this, but it's like, no, we have the opportunity because we were very fortunate, very lucky, right guy, right time, right place, right team, right little bit of luck and skill. But we're gonna help others because others aren't maybe as fortunate as us. And if we can make an impact on someone else's life, that's the whole boomerang mindset: give, serve others, but don't keep score. So I just wanted to give you some love there, because I think you've done a fantastic job. And then flash forward, we see it like a homecoming game at Central, everybody, and Jason's at another school, and the opportunity that was presented to him really wasn't what it was presented. And so we were talking through, and I said, have you ever thought about staffing? I think you kill it, dude. You're a great relationship builder. That's really what the job's about. It's being a good listener, following up. He's like, I've never even thought of that. And 6 years, almost 6 years, you're still there. I remember you
Yep.
called me, and if you remember this, I remember you called me after one of your, um, I would just say, higher paydays.
Yeah.
And like, that made my day. I still remember that phone call, where I was. And so, like, to me, even though it wasn't my commission check, it was the payment of karma in life. I know is
Yeah.
legit. And so I couldn't be more proud of you, dude. Proud of you as the person, the friend, the dad. And it's just really, really cool to see what you're doing at Kforce.
I appreciate hearing that. I mean, yeah, loved making that phone call to you. I try and say thanks a lot, right? But just the impact you've made on my life. Yeah, obviously, being at Kforce has been amazing for me. I'm glad I could thank you for that. But even outside of that first sit down around your kitchen table, I don't know if I shared with you my mindset. Like, I'm going to go in and sell to the top sales guy, right? So it wasn't sales. Like you said, it was just like, let's have a relationship and see where this goes. If it's just, and I tell people this quite often, if you and I are just catching up on football, if we're catching up on our kids, and that's all the relationship ever is, that's a relationship. That's awesome. If there's more to it outside of that, great, but not the point of me reaching out. So I love that you and I have had a relationship beyond Central, because that tells me that it's a real relationship. It's not
Totally.
just a transactional. It's more transformational.
Yeah, and those are the ones you like telling your kids about, telling your family about. I mean, I think about, I don't know if you ever listened to the Dale Favors episode. Dale Favors is a gentleman I met on his journey he's from Orange, New Jersey,
Okay.
and I think East Orange. I think I was East or South. I always mix that up. But I met Dale in 2020, and I learned more about diversity and race relationship and race relations, and more just about like perspective. And he is even though I've only met him twice in my life, I feel like he's one of my closest friends. I've talked to him when I need a little support. If I don't meet him and the impact he had on me, I don't interview probably 5 or 6 teammates of color that I played with that I never asked questions, like from Mike T to Kenny to Brett Allen, to name a few. And it forced me to get curious, which is one of my
Mm-hmm.
hopefully superpowers I continue to sharpen. And we all have curiosity in us if you let it out, but most people let it lay dormant. And but it's like that. Like, I'm still a buddy of his, and I'd go play golf, and we've never done business together, but he's someone I've gotten a lot of business mentorship from that I've shared with
Yeah.
my kids. So I don't
Awesome.
know. I love his stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, if people have they've heard about, before we go into some last minute questions, if people have, I know who Kforce is, but if people haven't, like, who is that? Like, is it like the Force be with you, a Star Wars company? Like,
Yeah.
if people have no idea who Kforce is, tell us who Kforce is, and how can people learn more about you and what people at Kforce are doing, and why would it make sense for someone like, whether you're a candidate or a company, to reach out for help?
Yeah. So we do technology talent solutions. We also do technology consulting solutions. We out of Well, now I'm fumbling on my words, right? Because I'm trying to give more about Kforce. Again, it goes back to the relationship. One thing that I've loved about Kforce, not surprising knowing that you introduced me, our emphasis is making sure it's a fit all the way around, right? When we're working with a technology candidate, really not trying to push them into just accepting the offer, just moving forward with an interview or an opportunity. It's lining up that opportunity for them. Same thing as I'm working with companies whom I support, and hiring managers, directors, VPs, CIOs, working with them to understand what are you really trying to accomplish, trying to understand their business better, their approach, and then trying to find a solution that may fit for them, or maybe we're not the right solution. That's fine too. But again, if you've got that relationship piece, it's a good fit at Kforce.
Love it. So if you're a candidate searching for a technology job, a finance and accounting job, if you're a company looking to bring on, call it staff augmentation or services work, we'll make sure Jason's linked in the show notes, everybody, and we'll make sure he's an easy one to reach out. And what the thing I love about him is, if he can't help you, he'll be the first to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll find you a new friend, which is one of the very first lines of what I love about the writing, because I'm obviously, I love writing too, but writing a book, is I told my kids that dad makes friends for a living when they were 7 years old. And that's kind of what
I
I feel
said
like,
the
that's why
same
you and I
thing.
hit it off. I feel like we both do that,
Yep.
and really kind of a corny, simply way to look at it, but it's true. Um, okay. Lastly, if you were to summarize everything we've talked about today, from your family to your brother to your sisters to work to Shannon to the kids, that maybe dads can take from our conversation today to say, wow, I learned a lot about maybe 1, 2, and 3, or A, B, and C. from a theme perspective or an action item perspective, tell me what are some things that dads can take from our conversation to help them be that ultimate quarterback or leader of their home.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest thing, keep your eyes wide open. Don't blink on things. Definitely be introspective. Be aware of what's going on around you. That's what got me through a lot of the stuff growing up with my brother Spencer, with my family, and then with my kids. It's easy to get too busy. It's easy to say, "Oh, things are really hard right now." Yeah, they're really hard right now. But kind of how we started or talked about earlier, there's something for you that next day if you wake up. So wake up that next day looking for that new thing, that new opportunity, the new way to drive your kids forward, because it's there. Someone else definitely has it worse than you do, no matter what you're going through.
Love it. Well said, brother. Well, it's now time to go into the lightning round, where I show you the negative hits have taken too many bong hits, not bong hits, but football hits at Central.
Bong.
Yeah, bong,
Yeah.
getting dinged in the head. Even though I had a
Yep.
fantastic offensive line, I just sometimes back in the '90s as quarterbacks took a lot of bigger hits than the quarterbacks do now. And I know I sound like the guy walking up snow backwards in snow, but it's truth. Your job is to answer as quickly as you can. I hope to get a giggle out of you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, true or false, you own the deadlift record at Central Washington for 1,200 pounds.
False.
Okay, true or false, you own the Campus U Totem eating burger contest for having 14 burgers in an hour.
False. I wish that was true.
All right, I giggled at my own joke. We're tied. If I was to come to your house for dinner right now, what would we have?
We would have curry, Japanese curry.
Wow, who's cooking?
Shannon.
Wow,
I'm not a cook, man.
love it. If there was to be, you and Shannon were going to go on vacation right now, no kids, just you two. Where are you going?
Ireland.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, I love Ireland comedy, writing. My favorite playwright is Martin McDonagh. Most people probably haven't read him, but love that playwright. I really like the Irish culture, and I want to go to an island place that isn't sandy beaches.
Okay,
And Shannon's history is around there too.
okay, very cool.
Ancestry.
If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
Just call me Roundy.
Okay.
Most people don't call me Jason. They've always just called me Roundy. How many Roundies have you met? That's the title.
I call you Roundy. That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, now Just Call Me Roundy is killing it. And every bookstore, even the ones in Ellensburg, they can't keep this Just Call Me Roundy on the shelves because it's just freaking selling out everywhere. Every airport can't sell it. And so finally people at Hulu and Netflix like, shit, maybe we should make this into a movie. They finally are. You're the casting director, Mr. Roundy. Who is going to star you in this critically acclaimed hit movie?
I've got two answers for you. I'd love Mark Wahlberg to play me, just because, I mean, look at that guy, how fit he is, right? Who will probably play me? Either Kevin James, just because of our shapes, or like a Fred Durst. I've been told I look like Fred Durst.
Okay, maybe I like both those choices. I think
Yeah.
either one is a win. And then last question: tell me 2 words that would describe Shannon.
Breath of fresh air.
Those are
I guess
hyphenated.
that's a hyphenated adjective for you.
Yep.
And caring.
Here we go. I've never heard that before, but I love it. And we've never made it a 5-word answer into 1 word by hyphenating it, but it's true. We did it. It's my rules. I can do what I want.
I can write that, right?
Here we go. Roundy, the lightning round's over. We both giggled. We'll call it a tie. But I think I'm going to give you the dub because I always let my guests win. This has been an absolute blast. I'm so grateful.
Love it.
That you spent time with me today. I'm so grateful for your story. Rest in peace, Mom. Rest in peace, Spencer. Who would have thought that 10 years ago we'd said, hey, I know that you're pissed at Central right now, but just in 10 years, I'm going to be on your podcast. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
You're like, what's a podcast?
Can I fax you that? Can I send it in the mail? But I think I love the advice you gave us. I love the story. I hope there's dads at home that took a lot of notes like I did. I have a page full of notes. For everybody watching on video, thank you for spending time with us. For people who listening on wherever you consume your podcast, thank you. If you do not subscribe, just hit that subscribe now or follow us, and you'll get notified of every new episode that comes out. And if you think there's a dad out there or someone else that you think would benefit from this conversation today, there's over 260 something episodes we've done. We're in season 5. We are not stopping. Don't tell anybody, everybody, but I get free therapy out of every episode. So selfishly, I do this for me too. And but Jason, it's been great spending time with you. Best luck to you. I'm very proud of all the work and success you're having at Kforce, brother.
Likewise. Always love seeing you. Thanks,
Right,
Casey.